Everyone, welcome back. Quick question before we start. Do you have a task that's been on your list for so long it's basically furniture at this point? Like it's been there so long you stopped seeing it. You move it from this week to next week, you avoid looking directly at it, and weirdly, the more important the task is, the worse this gets. This is the overwhelm avoidance loop. And today we're going to name it, map it, and break it. Here's the paradox at the center of this. The task that you avoid most intensely are usually the ones that matter most. That's not a coincidence. It's a predictable neurological pattern. Think about the things on your list that have been there the longest. Is it the easy admin stuff? No. It's the pitch you haven't sent, the sales page you haven't finished, the video you keep meaning to record, but don't do, the follow-up to the warm lead who's probably forgotten that you exist by now, the high stakes, revenue moving, business building things, the exact things you started this business to do. And the more they matter, the harder your brain works to stay away from them. Here's the reframe that changes everything. Avoidance is not laziness, it's protection. Your brain isn't broken, it's not sabotaging you, it's doing what it's built to do. Assess the threat, minimize the risk, and keep you safe. The problem is that it's extending that survival function to things that are not actually dangerous, but feel dangerous enough to trigger the same response. We've talked about this before, that your brain doesn't distinguish, I might fail, with there's a tiger trying to eat me. It's a threat your brain wants to protect you. So first up, protecting you from failure. If you never send the pitch, you can't be rejected by it. The task is never a failure if it's never finished. Your brain has figured this out and it's exploiting that loophole. Protecting from judgments. Putting something into the world means that people can have opinions about it. For an RSD brain, that's like a real risk. It registers as genuinely dangerous because the emotional hit of hard feedback or silence feels like an attack to you. Protecting from overwhelm. Sometimes the task isn't just daunting, it feels so big, so undefined, so loaded with implications that starting it would trigger a flood your brain doesn't know how to deal with. Avoidance keeps that dam intact. You can't have the flood of anything if you keep it at bay. And protecting from disappointment. What if you do it and it doesn't work? What if you give it everything and the results are mediocre? For some of us, it feels safer to never know than to try and have the answer be no, it wasn't good enough. Your brain is trying to protect you. The protection, however, is costing you your business. Here's the loop, so you can see how each stage feeds the next. It starts when the task feels high stakes. Your brain flags it as a threat. Avoidance kicks in. You don't do it, you don't look at it, you fill in the time with other things. Again, you're always busy, you're doing things, just not the right things. And then this is where it gets insidious. The task doesn't just sit there quietly, it grows. Every day you don't do it, it gets bigger in your head. The undone task takes up more cognitive space, more emotional weight. Shame starts to layer on. I should have done this already. Why haven't I done this? What's wrong with me? The shame adds more dread. The dread makes the task feel bigger. The task feeling bigger makes the avoidance feel more justified. And now you're right back at the top of the loop, except everything is heavier than it was before. The loop doesn't break itself. If you leave it alone, it's just going to get bigger and tighter and worse. Let's talk about why the important stuff gets hit hardest. Identity is attached to the outcome. When a task is connected to who you are as an entrepreneur, as a business person, your capability, your legitimacy, whether you deserve to be doing this, failing at it doesn't feel like it's a little bit of a setback. It feels like evidence for the voice that's already been whispering, that nasty little voice in your head. Maybe you're not cut out for this. You're afraid that this is going to be the proof. So your brain wants to keep that test from happening, because what if? The task is undefined. Work on my launch is not a task. It's an abyss of a gazillion things. There's no starting point. There's no finish line. There's no way to know when you're done or if you're doing it right. Your brain's threat Your brain's threat radar fires when it sees something that's undefined because unknown equals unsafe. It can't calculate what it's about to walk into, so it doesn't want to walk into it at all. Too much time has already passed. Here's the thing about delayed tasks. They accumulate interest. What was a 30-minute email 3 weeks ago is now a 2-hour emotional event that requires mental preparation, self-forgiveness, and a plan. You turned this task that was manageable into an entire project. The stakes feel all or nothing. ADHD brains are prone to black and white framing. This launch either works brilliantly or it's a catastrophic failure. There is no in between. The pitch lands perfectly or it confirms you're a fraud. That framing isn't just unhelpful, it's paralyzing. No one wants to be in a situation where the only possible outcomes are victory or humiliation. Like there is no in between. Here's what makes it hard to catch. Avoidance in the business context almost never looks like you're lying on the couch eating chips. It looks productive. Your brain, in its infinite cleverness, will find genuinely useful things to do instead of the thing it needs to be doing. Inbox zero sprints instead of writing the sales page. Redesigning your Canva templates instead of recording the video. Researching better systems instead of using the one you already have. Engagement runs on social media instead of sending the pitch. Rewriting your bio again instead of launching the thing. Redefining the offer indefinitely instead of just selling it. Attending every free webinar available and some that aren't free because you convince yourself, I got to learn more, I got to do more, I got to be more, instead of actually implementing anything that you've learned. Building a better content calendar instead of creating the content. None of these things individually are bad. They are all legitimate business activities. That's the whole problem. Your brain isn't choosing obviously bad things over the important thing. It's choosing legitimately useful things over the most important thing, specifically to avoid the most important thing, and doing it so smoothly you might not even notice it. You know you're in productive avoidance when you're busy as hell and the one task that would actually move the needle hasn't moved in 2 weeks or longer. Here's the math of what avoidance costs over time. Day 1, write the sales page is a 2-hour task. Slightly daunting. Week 1, it's still a 2-hour task, plus about 15 minutes of guilt every time you think about it. Week 2, still 2 hours, plus the additional weight of, I've been putting this off and now I have to deal with that fact. Week 3, it's 2 hours of actual writing, plus a shame spiral, plus what is now an identity level anxiety about whether you're capable of following through on things. Month 2, the task is identical in scope to what it was on day 1, but the emotional weight around it ends up being a full day event. You need to psych yourself up. You need to build in recovery time after. You need to survive the inner critic the entire way through because you know that nasty shame voice is saying, see, you should have done this. Why wasn't this done 2 months ago? So what's wrong with you? The task itself didn't change, but your relationship to it did. Avoidance is the inflation cost on that task. Every day you don't do it, the cost goes up. Not in effort, but in the emotional overhead. Before you can break the loop, you need to know which part of it you're stuck in because the intervention is different depending on where the blockage actually is. Is this about fear of the outcome? Then you're in RSD or failure avoidance territory. The work itself isn't the problem, it's the threat of judgment or rejection that is. No productivity strategy is going to touch this until you address the emotional piece first. Regulate yourself before you plan. Is this about the task being undefined? Then you have a scope problem. Your brain can't start because they can't see where the end of the task is. What is the full task? The fix isn't motivation, it's definition. Break it down into something concrete. Give yourself a definite finish line. And then the avoidance will lose a significant chunk of its power because you can see the path. You know what you need to do. Is this about accumulated weight from compounding avoidance? The emotional debt has grown too large to quietly ignore. This one requires a deliberate restart ritual, something that acknowledges the weight, gives you permission to start fresh, lowers the bar enough that you can actually move. You can't willpower your way through 3 weeks of accumulated dread. You have to release that dread first. Is this about identity stakes? Your brain has made this task a referendum on whether you belong, whether you're legitimate, whether you should be doing this at all. And that needs reframing before it needs some kind of execution. No amount of task breakdown is going to help you if your brain believes completing the task is going to surface the proof that you're a fraud. So you need to deal with that first. The Unstick Protocol. For tasks that have been sitting on your list too long and are now carrying emotional weight, the task itself needs to be done. That doesn't change, right? We talked about that. Sorry, got stuck there for a minute. But we have a 4-step Unstick Protocol for you. First up, name the weight out loud in writing. I've been avoiding this task for how long? Because I'm afraid of, what is it? Not because I've been busy. Yes, we know you've been busy. Or not because I haven't had time. Yes, you have. You've been avoiding it. Why? The real reason. What exactly are you afraid of? Rejection, looking incompetent, finding out the offer doesn't work, finishing it, and then running out of excuses for things? Name it. Bring it out. Every time I work with clients and they do this, the thing that they've been afraid of sounds significantly less catastrophic said out loud than it did living in their head for days or weeks. Step 2, shrink the entry point. And I mean shrink it aggressively. You're not starting the task, you're starting the smallest possible version of starting the task. Open the doc is a valid first step. Write one sentence. Any sentence, even a bad sentence, counts. Pull up a blank Canva template and put your name on it. That's progress. The goal isn't to make a big dent in the project. The goal is to break that first step, to puncture the loop in the tiniest possible way. Because once you're in the doc, the next sentence is easier. Once you're in the template, the next element is easier. First, you break the seal. That's it. Step 3, define done in a small way. Not finish the sales page, not do the video. What is the absolute minimum version of this task that moves it forward for today? Not finish it all, not do it well, just move it. 1 inch forward is still forward, and it's definitely further than you were yesterday. And then step 4, remove the audience. The first pass is always private. Nobody sees this draft. Nobody hears this pitch practice. You're not performing, you're generating that raw material. What you need to understand that most avoidance isn't actually about the task, it's about the imagined audience watching you do it and finding that you're not good enough. Remove the audience, even the internal one, that nagging little voice, and then that task is going to shrink dramatically for you. And this might be one of the most important things I'll say, is the task is neutral. The story your brain built around it is not. Write a sales email is a neutral task. 200 words, a subject line, a send button. The story that your brain builds around it, if I send this and nobody buys, it means that my offer is worthless and I shouldn't be doing this. That's not neutral. That story has turned a 45-minute writing task into a test of your legitimacy as a business owner. Record a video is neutral. It's a person speaking into a camera for some number of minutes. The story that you tell, I have to look polished and say the perfect thing, or people will think I don't know what I'm talking about. That is not neutral. The story has turned a simple content task into a high-stakes performance review. Follow up with a lead is neutral. It's one sentence sent to someone who already expressed interest in what you do. The story, if they haven't replied, it means they hate me, and reaching out again will confirm that I'm annoying. That's not neutral. That story has turned a 30-second task into an anticipated rejection. Your job before you try to execute any of the tasks is to identify which part is the task and which part is the story. Because you can do the task. The story is what you need to fix. The goal isn't that you're never going to experience avoidance. You have a neurodivergent brain. Avoidance is going to happen. There's no getting rid of it. The goal is to build a business where avoidance is harder than starting, where the path of least resistance actually leads to the work. So how do you do that? How do you make that happen? Predefine the smallest possible version of every high-stakes task before the week starts. Not when you're already staring at it and you're frozen. Right now, when you're calm and your prefrontal cortex is online, what is the embarrassingly small version of the task? Write it down. That's what you're starting with. Schedule your high-stakes tasks first. In your 90 minutes, your high peak I can focus time, before decision fatigue hits, before avoidance has had time to build momentum for the day. High stakes tasks should be scheduled as early as you can in your peak time. Okay? So if you're a morning person, it's going to be 9 a.m. If you're an afternoon person, it might be, 1 p.m. But you don't want to schedule those high stakes things for when you're already on the decline and you're like ready to check out. Use external accountability for things you avoid hardest. Body doubling, public commitment, co-working sessions. I cannot say this strongly enough. Your internal motivation will not reliably outperform a well-designed external structure. That helps with your brain. External accountability is one of the most evidence-backed tools we have for working with your kind of brain. Do a weekly avoidance audit. Anything that appears on your list for 3 weeks in a row doesn't get another postpone. It gets a diagnostic. Why is it still here? What type of avoidance is this? What is the right intervention? 3 weeks is a pretty solid signal, not for more discipline, but for a different approach. Celebrate completing avoided tasks disproportionately. Your brain needs to learn that doing the hard thing produces relief and reward, not just the absence of dread. The dopamine system is what we're working with here. Make the completion of avoided tasks feel significantly better than the avoiding of them. And over time, things will start to shift. Make it a celebration. Your brain needs to see, look, I did the thing and this is great, because avoidance is just not having the bad thing. But if you make the celebration a big thing, your brain is going to want the big thing. Your one thing this week. Name the task that has been living on your list the longest. Write it down and then ask yourself one question. Am I avoiding the task, or am I avoiding the story that I built around it? Not both. Pick the primary one, because that answer changes what you do next, and it's the thing that's going to break the loop. If you found this helpful, please hit like, subscribe, share with someone else that you know, and I will see you in the next one.